Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. I'm Elisabetta, a watercolor artist with a passion for art supplies, and I'm very curious. I've heard people talking very well about this little set by Koh-i-Noor, a Czech brand called Anilinky. Of course, you know this brand. They make excellent products. They also have an artist grade watercolor line, but this is not artist grade, but it's not even the basic children range, is in between. It's not pigment based, as you can tell by the name. It's, I think, this ink based on aniline, and this is the 12 color set. They have also bigger sets, but they are on a stack wheel. Be careful, because on a stack wheel you can find two products, one for children and this one with ink that apparently is much better. So let's test it now. Okay, so this is how the product presents itself. It's 12 cakes, so it's obviously not artist grade, but they look very pigmented like this. And there is a small note in many languages, in Italian as well, but in English I will read this to you. Brilliant watercolors are excellent at bright and vivid colors. They are suitable for drawing designs, painting portraits, landscapes, etc. Also very suitable for painting Easter eggs. Wow, that's good, because it will soon be Easter. About in 1 month. I just booked a plane for my son to come back home, so I know very well when vacations are. I've never been so competent in a calendar in my life as in this phase where my son only comes home for holidays. Okay, so this is the product. Let's swatch it right now. I have also put a black line with a Sharpie to check transparency. I have left some space on the right hand side because I'd love to compare these with Derwent Inktense that are much more expensive and that are really lovely. I like them a lot. So we will compare them with Derwent Inktense afterwards, if there are comparable colors. So there is no such thing as a color name. Okay, they don't re-wet that easily, but this is white. Of course, we don't see it, but at least we test if it is opaque. Do you know what? I think I will activate this with a spray. Unfortunately, it was not a good idea. Look at this. Okay, do what we can. Oh, okay. Then we got yellow. I hope it's not dirty. Wow, this is so vibrant. Incredible. I didn't expect this. It's not at all children paint. Then we got this warmer red. They are much lighter ones of paper. On paper, I have this feeling. This is an orange actually, and it is wonderful. I hope you can see how wonderful this is on screen. This is great paint. This is a sort of alizarin crimson, maybe. Let's check. No, it's vermilion actually. And we got maybe a green. It's very vibrant green. It's not muted, but you can maybe mute it down, and it is beautiful. I think these colors, being ink based, just like Inktense, you cannot lift them, and they're great for glazing and very transparent. They're not at all opaque. I think this is maybe a blue, I don't know. Oh, it's a sort of tallow green. Beautiful. So we got two greens. Dark blue. A cooler blue. Let me just change the water because it's so pigmented that the water gets very, very dark very, very quickly. I'm not sure that the screen, the camera can capture the vibrancy of these colors. Okay, now this is maybe a purple. I hope I have enough space. A brown. This is very beautiful, this brown. Some silver, not that I use it very much. And this is opaque. It's the only opaque color I would say so far. White is also quite transparent. And then I have black, pitch black. Now what I will do, I will take Derwent Inktense and compare side by side comparable colors. I only have the 12 color set, so it's a good comparison. Okay. I think that Inktense, which I like very much, are less vibrant, but also very pigmented. So I start with the yellow. I love these colors. This is my brush is not very clean because the problem is that it's dirty from the Anilinky and it's difficult to get rid of this pigment. So it's important to rinse your brushes immediately. Then we try the orange. This orange is lighter but also very vibrant. This is beautiful orange. But I can tell you that Anilinky is not, let me reactivate those. It's not less pigmented than Inktense Derwent for a fraction of the price. I paid them about 10 euros because they're made in UK, I think. So I think that in the UK they're much less expensive. No, actually my box is made in Czech Republic. Then we have this sort of vermilion. So they're quite comparable so far. Beautiful. Plum. And I will compare it with this purple. It's different. It's more reddish. Very beautiful. But this is also beautiful. Then we got an ultramarine. And I will compare it with this warmer blue. Except that this is much more like an ultramarine. This is almost purplish. It's very warm blue. Okay. Bright blue. Let's put it here. Not really comparable, but yes. A cooler blue. This green, a May green, really comparable with this. Okay. Racing green. By the way, I have a review of this set and you can find it in the link in the info box. It's in my channel. Natural brown here. This is more intense than Anilinky. This is very intense. This is more a burnt sienna. This is a burnt amber. And then I got black. Pitch black, these two. And this one has a teal green, which is very beautiful, that we don't have here, but I will show you. Here where we have the silver, I will swatch the teal green, which was maybe more like this. So I should swatch it here, maybe. You see, this was comparable with this. And what else we have? Yes, we have a yellow ochre in Derwent Inktense, and we don't have a comparable coloring. This is very useful. So we let this dry and then we come back. I'll try a little sketch. So yesterday I sketched this small marina with my Derwent Inktense, and I want to check if I can do the same with my Anilinky. Of course, I had yellow ochre here. I will have to recreate it and play around to create this yellow ochre. So we'll keep it here as a reference. And now I will speed up the whole process. This is the comparison between the two sets, the Derwent Inktense and the small Anilinky inexpensive set. First of all, let's talk about pigmentation. This Anilinky is so incredibly pigmented. It's not, maybe the term pigment is not correct because they don't use pigments, but they use inks, but It's so saturated, it's incredible. It's even more saturated than the Inktense, and that's the positive thing. It's very compact, it's nice to take on the go, and it's not chalky at all, really not chalky. It's very, very transparent. It's not chalky, nothing. But on the other hand, what is negative is that the Inktense has some slightly more muted natural colors, whereas the Anilinky by Koh-i-Noor have such vibrant artificial watercolors that I found it difficult to play around with them and mute them down and desaturate them. And they're very difficult to water down. They're too saturated. So overall, I would say that they would not replace my Derwent Inktense, absolutely, but they're nice to have if you want to paint some illustration, for instance, with some flat wash, because a gradient wash is easier with this Derwent, but a flat wash, I think you can play around with these and have some poster-like illustration, because they're very vibrant. I think that in graphic design, for instance, they could be very useful for illustrations. The color choice is very nice, actually. I miss a yellow ochre. I'm not using, my dogs are barking. I'm not using this silver, so I wish I had a yellow ochre instead of this silver, or instead of this white, that is, by the way, dirty white. It's not a white that I would use, absolutely. It's not even opaque, so it doesn't really, it's not that useful, actually. And I have this wonderful racing green in there when Inktense, and I only have these two greens here, like a phthalo or a grass green, but I can mute down this, although it's not easy to mute down. And this blue is a bit purplish once dry, so these two colors are very close together. I miss an ultramarine like this, or a cobalt. So I wish I had a different blue and a yellow ochre, but overall this can be a fun set to have, to slip in your handbag, to slip in your backpack if you're around. It's really sturdy and it's fun. I admit it was fun. The artistic potential is not incredible, but they're not children paint, absolutely they're not. They are very good inks. They're great inks, I think, in a cake form, but they're not chalky, they're not children paint. They're inks, so they're not comparable with watercolor. Whereas I think that the Derwent Inktense behave more like real watercolor. The comparison between the two is much easier to understand if we compare these two drawings. This is done with Inktense, and this one with Anilinky. You immediately see the difference. Look at the sky, for instance. This was impossible to lift, and it's almost impossible to reach a delicate value, a light value. Look at this. It's difficult to play around with this. I love the seaside so much better with the Inktense. On the other hand, I could glaze very well and change the color of this boat, because I found that the green was not enough contrasting with the beach. And the overall beach, I don't mind, I think it's cute. The depth of this color was impossible to reach with the Inktense. So the Inktense are overall more delicate, they have softer values, they have lighter values, but it's very difficult to go very dark, whereas here you can really go very, very dark. And this is a nice thing to have. So the result is very different. The behavior at the end of the day is very different. They're both inks, but Anilinky doesn't really behave like real watercolor. It's really an ink. So I might use it for Inktober next year. I think that this is going to be a good opportunity to use up this cute, fun, inexpensive set. Be very careful not to mix it with the other children's sets by Koh-i-Noor. This must say brilliant watercolor, brilliant watercolor. And you can also buy the 24 or 36, I don't remember, cakes, but be careful, they look exactly the same like their children paint. It must say brilliant watercolors. So they are really brilliant. I think that the terms is perfect. Thanks a lot for having watched this with me. If you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask me. But above all, I have ink all over. I think this is not easy to wash away. This is also very good for fabric, apparently. So my sweater, okay. And if you have an experience with either Inktense by Derwent or Anilinky, please do let me know. I'm very curious to know what your experience is and any recommendation for any similar brand. Thanks a lot, and I'm waiting for your thumb up if you like this. And you can always subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. And I see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao. Ciao.